Samantha Skelly is a seven-figure entrepreneur, sought-after international speaker, best-selling author, and wellness coaching expert. As a leading authority on disordered eating and body image issues, Samantha has made it her life's mission to empower women to overcome their struggles with food and body so they can live happy, authentic, and fulfilling lives. Samantha, it is such an honor to connect with you today. Welcome to the Soul Collective podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate you.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started recording. This is really the first body image focused episode that we've done on the Soul Collective, and it couldn't be a more timely episode. You know, there's so much happening in the world right now, and all of our stuff is sort of, coming up to the surface. And so just want to ask you, how are you finding that, and how are you kind of moving through the emotions of this time?
Well, if 2020 was to happen 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I feel like I'd be a hot mess express because there's been so much movement and so much uncertainty and not a lot of predictability or that felt sense of safety this year. It's like, I think everyone's kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's that feeling of like, what's going to happen next? And all of our sympathetic nervous systems have just been shot this year, sort of riding in fight or flight.
So true.
And so, yeah, if this was to happen before I discovered, the tools that I use for spiritual and personal development and breathwork and things like that, I feel like I would be in a completely different place. Safety is such an important sensation for us to feel. We have to feel it. It is, after food, water, and shelter, that's our fourth need. Like we need to feel that. And when we're not experiencing safety outside of ourselves and we don't know how to create it within ourselves, it leaves us feeling anxious, stressed out, feeling untethered, not knowing if we're okay. And that drives us into scarcity. That drives us into fear. That drives us into these states that have us feeling just really uncomfortable, which then drives people into overeating or consuming way too much alcohol or drugs or whatever it is to sort of numb ourselves to feel, safe. So much of my work and so much of what I'm doing now is just really helping people establish that felt sense of safety in their body, helping people feel comfortable in their body, feeling peaceful, knowing that there is something that is supporting us that is so much greater than all the parts combined. And when we tap into that connection for safety and we don't look at the external world for safety, we can calm our minds and calm our system down to the point where life in chaos actually can feel enjoyable. And I didn't know how to do that before. So my 18 to 23, I really struggled with my relationship to food and my body. And I was on over 50 diets in less than 4 years. And I was trying to find safety in looking a certain way and eating a certain way. And I felt out of control in my life. So I controlled my food and I controlled my exercise and I controlled the things that I could control. And then I realized that, wow, that was making me absolutely miserable, trying to micromanage all of my calories and my exercise. And I would approach everything from this very fear-based place. Like, if I don't do this, then I will, end up whatever. And so it was a really scary time. And so I now never let my mind decide the decisions, my food and exercise decisions. It's just not something that I do anymore because my body has just the greatest wisdom and just infinite intelligence. And so it's really about having that dialogue with your body, for your body to say, okay, this is what we want to eat today. This is how we want to move today. And, there's days where I'm like, I just don't want to move at all. I just want to, just hang out and just relax. And that's what my body calls for. So it's just, my work is all about reacquainting ourselves, becoming deeply embodied, inhibiting our body so that intelligence can be clearly communicated and we can live from that very soulful place.
Yeah, there's so much that I want to unpack there. And I know for myself personally in my own journey, and I mean, I think almost everybody listening can relate to this in some way, because we have such a culture that is defined by the diet and weight loss industry
Mm,
and tells us what we should think and feel about our bodies. But I know, you know, in particular moments in time when my life has felt out of control, that's kind of an area where I tended to, you know, exert control in, right?
mhm,
Yeah, and I want to kind of go back, you know, because you talk about this transformational journey, but like take us back to that
mm,
point in time, you know, when you were in your 20s, and what did your life like look and feel like?
mm. Yeah, it was days on end, weeks, months on end where I would wake up and the first thought on my mind was, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go to bed tonight," because my inner critic was so intense. It was on such a loudspeaker. You know, I didn't have any empowering thoughts in my mind. It was all, You're overweight," even though I wasn't. I was exact same size I am now, but that just goes to show how body dysmorphia can just like really play a negative role. So my inner critic would say, I'm overweight. I need to lose weight. I'm lazy. I'm not good enough. And I'm unworthy. I'm never going to get to my goal weight. Um, there would be a lot of shame around, "Oh, I can't believe you ate that," or whatever it was. And if there wasn't perfection embedded into every action, I would immediately go into this incredibly debilitating self sabotage state where I felt just marinated in like self pity and
Mm,
judgment. And I didn't know that there was another way of healing. I didn't, I honestly thought, I was like, there's a point in my life where I was like, this is just the thing that I struggle with in life.
yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to get out of this because I didn't see a pathway. And everything I tried to do to quote unquote fix myself, there was severe repercussions and I would just, relapse and it would just make it all worse.
Where do
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
think your beliefs came from? Were they, you know,
Mm.
ingrained from an early age? I think we, you know, adopt some of this stuff, you know, from childhood, really.
Yeah, I think it even goes past that. It's like there's childhood wounding, and we all have childhood wounding, right? Trauma from our childhood. Then there's the lineage, the parental wounding, whether that's nature versus nurture. And then you can even go as far out, and some people subscribe to this, others don't, like past life trauma,
Mhm.
like beliefs that are from our past lives.
Yeah.
And I believe part of my story of like why I created these beliefs was I was a child actress and a dancer when I was younger, and I come from a family of overachievers. Like my dad was a professional. So my parents are divorced, and both of my dads, one is a professional golfer, was a professional hockey player. My mom was like very successful in her career, and so I definitely subscribe to the narrative of extreme perfectionism, even from
Mm.
such a young age. Like perfect body, perfect appearance, perfect this, that. So I just put so much pressure on myself to be a certain way. And so a lot of the disordered eating and everything came from just my own pressure that I put on myself,
Yeah.
and I think being a dancer, being in, bodysuits and looking at the mirror for 30 hours a week, you're always comparing yourself. I can remember I hated my legs so much when I was younger. I don't understand it now, but I hated my legs. And I can remember it would be like 30 degrees outside and I'd be wearing jeans because I never wanted to wear shorts because I hated my legs so much. I remember this one day I tried to wear shorts and I like went home at lunch and I changed because I hated it so
Mm.
much. Didn't want to do gym class because you had to wear gym shorts or whatever, and so it was just awful. And I I think the dancing and the pressure on my to be a certain way, and the body image pressure, again, not that anyone else put on me, but that I put on myself, perpetuated into disordered eating and perpetuated into chronically dieting, on a diet, off a diet, and that carried on until my mid 20s, to the point where I found breath work and found other healers and tried to go an alternate route. I was trying to end emotional eating with dieting, which was just like the worst idea ever. And I really had to realize that the food was just an innocent bystander, and my relationship with food had nothing to do with food. It was all emotional. And when I really realized that and began to do the deeper inner work, which I outline in my book, that's when I really began to see shifts and changes. So yeah, it was crazy,
Hmm.
crazy journey.
Yeah, I can relate to so much of what you said. And I think, you know, that journey of really
Mhm.
coming to love our bodies and accept it and not like berate it with a constant
Mm,
barrage of negative self talk is a journey. Like, I'm sure it didn't happen for you overnight, but you
totally.
really learned some valuable tools that you now share with people all
Mhm.
over the world. So, was there a turning point for you? And, what did that sort of progress and progression look like?
Yeah, there was a complete turning point. It was actually the first time that I ever discovered breath work. And I write about this in the book, in my book, because I believe that breath work is the number one tool to help people who struggle with disordered eating and body image issues. There's no way I would have been able to heal without it. It is so powerful, so powerful. And what it helped me do is it helped me understand the difference between what is an emotional hunger cue, like what does my body really want emotionally, and what is a physical hunger cue. And it gave me the visceral intelligence to understand like what that actually feels like, and what that actually is. And so I was in Bali, and I used to suck at meditation, and I still suck at meditation if I don't do breath work first. And so I went to Bali to try and really take another route to healing. And there was a meditation class that I was planning on going to. I ended up being late for the meditation class and found breath work. And so I go up to the class, and there's this man who's dressed all in white, and he comes up to me and he says, "Are you ready to go on the ride of your life?" And I was like, "What is he talking about? Like, what's going on here?" And he said, "You are going to feel sensations in your body, emotions in your body that you've never felt before." And this was at a time in my life where the only things I could really feel were anxiety and numbness. That was pretty much it. And so I was like, "You don't know who you're dealing with. I don't know how to feel." But within the first 3 or 4 minutes of that class, my body felt incredibly active. Like I felt so open and so expansive, and so like I could take on the world. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And it was that moment that I started to use breath work to heal myself. And I still use it to this day. And now I have an entire
Mhm.
company. My second company is Pause Breathwork. And the reason why Pause became what it is today is because I was using breath work to help my clients who struggled with emotional eating and body image issues at Hungry for Happiness, my first company. And I just saw how people were transforming so rapidly because breathwork gets right to the point. It's not about, let me try and think about how to feel better, or let me treat personal development like another thing I have to do. In my opinion, that's not what personal development's about, or spiritual development. It's really about the embodiment, the beingness, feeling to heal. And for people who want to heal emotional eating, we got to get to the root. We got to get in the body, or else we're just putting band-aids on bullet wounds, essentially.
Yeah, I want to go into that a little bit deeper because I've heard you say that many times is that you have to
Mm-hmm.
feel it to heal. And I think that's so powerful. Do you believe that any issues related to body image or body confidence are an underlying emotional issue?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I had this moment yesterday when I was working out in our little makeshift gym in the Airbnb that we're staying at. We like travel with our kettlebells. It's hilarious. But I was like, I, I'm like, whoa, I am the exact same weight now that I was when I had all my issues. But I thought that I was massive. Like I looked in the mirror and I was like, I think I'm like 200 pounds. Like I genuinely thought that. And so it wasn't my body, it was the associations, the emotionality around my body, which I learned through my journey, which was just deep wounding from all things, being human. It's like if you're human, you've got trauma. I think
Yeah,
trauma is like this interesting word that it's like, oh no, I've got trauma. It's like we all have trauma. Like if you're human, you're traumatized. Welcome to the living.
right.
It's just like acknowledge it for what it is. Like we still and I still have trauma in my system based from things.
Do you
So yeah.
feel like a pressure at this point? I mean, you've built this massive company, and do you feel like a pressure in a sense to get it perfect?
Oh no, I'm a hot mess still. Like for sure. I mean, I'm learning and I'm growing every single day, you know, and I think like the most integral thing I can do for my business, for my clients, for my mission is constantly be real with where I'm at.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I'm a little bit, I was joking. I'm not a complete hot mess, but like there are times where I am moving through things that are really painful and like I will be healing until I die. You know, that's
mm,
just what it is. And I'm so committed to that mission because that's, you know, that's my expectation for my clients is for us to all look at that. And, I mean, gosh, like yeah, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly
yeah,
growing. I'm constantly healing. Like I'll never get there. Like it's funny. My next book that I'm writing, so my first book, Hungry for Happiness, is coming out at the end of September. The one
yeah,
that I'm like writing for 3 years from now is really about how we can sometimes get caught up in this destination addiction
mm,
of like, am I there yet? You know, is it all am I is everything going to work out? It's like if we've chosen this path of healing, we're going to be on this path of healing forever because we're never going to get there. There's never going to be a
mm,
bot like we're never going to like check the box of like I'm healed now. And I think that's like the facade, and I think that's what some of the industry
yeah,
perpetuates is of like take this program and you will be healed. I'm like I don't think so. You know, so yeah,
right.
I'm like I live in the messiness, I live in the undone, and I live in the you know, I guess the perceived brokenness of what it is to be human because that's where I feel alive. I feel alive in the messiness.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that, and it's so refreshing because it's true. Like,
Mhm,
if we are chasing a destination, we're really distracting ourselves from the present moment and the
mhm,
journey that we're all on as humans in this world. And right now, we're at a time where it is messy. This
mhm,
has been a really challenging year in a lot of different ways, and so a
mhm,
lot of stuff is coming up just around the fact of not being able to control necessarily everything, and realizing how much of our lives are out of our control, and that can
mhm.
be triggering in some ways. How are you noticing that, and with things that are kind of coming up?
Hmm. Let's see. I know this is going to trigger a lot of people when I say this, but 2020 has been one of my best years. Um, and there's been so many blessings and so many incredible things that have happened. The reason why I say this is because I've been able to really support people who've been who have not been able to see the light this year.
Mm,
And so for me, it's just been the most fulfilling thing. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I get to like hold hands with those souls who feel like they can't see the light. And I get to create communities and spaciousness for people who otherwise would not have that opportunity. And it's been so beautiful.
mm.
And I say 2020 has been the best year, not because it's been like, yay, let's party. But it's been real. Like
Yeah.
I've discovered the humanness in all things. And even with my team, you know, like my employees, it's like we've been able to peel back layers and just be so real with each other to a degree that we've not done before, and that's been so beautiful. You know, I've been able to witness my partner, his massive business shut down overnight, and then watch him develop and the strength to move through that and develop something even bigger, you
Wow.
know. And so I'm watching like all of this unfolding and knowing that there's a greater unfolding and there's a divine orchestration and a curriculum for this year that is beyond anything, like beyond the political narratives, beyond anything, that
Yeah.
is there's actually a perfection to it. And so I see that and I feel that amongst the destruction, and I'm holding both, and it's allowed me to increase my capacity and my tolerance for chaos and
Hmm.
really feel resourced to support other people. Um,
Yeah. I
so
love.
that's one thing.
Well, absolutely. And just, listening to you for all these years, I know that you're so purpose driven. So,
Mm,
to be able to like, you know, serve even higher is
mm,
such a beautiful thing during this time. And also,
yeah.
I do think that people are dealing with a lot of different things, whether it's loss
Mm,
or, just navigating different circumstances. sometimes there is a tendency to turn to food as a coping mechanism, right?
Mhm.
And people joke about the COVID-19,
Mhm.
maybe not being able to go to the gym. So I think that that brings up this feeling of, I might not be comfortable in my body. Like I
Mhm.
might want to change in some way, but like how, but I want to do it in a constructive way, and come
Mhm.
from a place of positive self-talk as opposed to you know being
Mhm.
in a negative place with the self. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for following my work for so long. That's like warms my
Yeah.
heart. Yeah, one of my big philosophies with, you know, weight loss is I genuinely believe every single human gets to decide the body that they want to be in. And if you want to walk the planet on a lighter frame, you get to do that. But what matters most is how we get there. So I'm not a body positivity activist at all. I think there's beauty in that, but that's not my message to the world. My message to the world is let's outsource the diet. Let's outsource to our bodies what our body wants, you know? And so
Mm,
really being intentional about integration into the body, embodiment into the body, listening, and really using food for health and hunger and moving our bodies in a way that our body wants, not our mind, and then letting our body settle at the weight that it wants to be at. And
mm,
so I've done this now for years. And my weight used to fluctuate like crazy when I was disordered eating, up 25 pounds, down 25 pounds. It was all over the place. And since I've really I've tasked my body to make the decisions and not my mind, it's been stabilized no matter what I eat. Like I was eating cookie dough last night with Eric. I'm like, this is great. And I like that would drive me into like a deprivation depression where I'm like, oh my God, I ate cookie dough last night. Now I need to diet. And I woke up this like the first thing I thought, like, I mean, I'm only thinking about it now because we're talking about this, but I'm like, I
yeah.
have no shame, no guilt, nothing. I'm like, that cookie dough was freaking incredible. you know? And that I would never be able to do that before. So
Mm,
when I say when I say outsourcing to the body and letting our body decide, that I'm talking like 95% of the time. And then there's that 5%, like when I'm eating cookie dough on the couch last night, where I'm like, oh God, this would be really good. Does my body want that? No, not necessarily, but it's like a treat. And I'm going to
yeah.
enjoy every single moment of it. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And that was just a narrative that was absolutely not available to me when I was disordered in my eating, and especially with exercise. I struggled with extreme exercise addiction to the point where I was in the gym 2 hours a day berating my body. Like it was awful.
Mm,
And now it's like I can skip a few days and it's not a big deal. So it's really about understanding like what the body wants and the weight that the body wants to be at.
mm. And I've heard you talk about anxiety and just
Mm.
how in our fast-paced world, anxiety just seems like the norm, right? Like and like it doesn't have to be that way, but
Mm,
I think when there is this feeling of anxiety or busyness, it can be
mhm,
like a tendency to distract or not feeling comfortable in the body. And I do think this time right now has allowed us all to like slow down in a
mm,
sense and really, have the option, right? There's always
mhm.
constant ways to distract ourselves, but to
Totally.
be present. And so,
Mm,
just I love how you talk about being able to enjoy a moment at
mm,
home. And I think happiness is a key, and I know that's a big part of your mission as well. As
mm,
like, how do we find moments of happiness and kind of tap into that? What have been some other ways that you've like really cultivated that for this
mhm,
time?
mm. It really comes down to paying attention because we live in a time where there's so much to be grateful for and there's so much to enjoy and there's so much to be in awe of. And if we're not paying attention, we're going to miss it. So, yeah, that it's interesting. It's like when we allow our bodies to go on default mode, we're going to be in survival mode because that's how we're wired, right? We have these reptilian brains that are 2 million years old that are always looking for what's going to kill us next. And that drives us into the sympathetic. And we need the sympathetic nervous system to, run away from things that are going to kill us. If I was on my bike ride yesterday and there was a bear, I'd be like, oh shit, let's get out of here. So I need that. But when we constantly are are staying in that sympathetic, it drives us into anxiety and depression and just addiction and all sorts of things. So we need to consciously move ourselves into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest. It's a place that we get to, after a long meditation or after a breath work or after a long bike ride or a workout. It's like that feeling. And
Mhm.
so it's really, really important for us to consciously, by design, place our system in environments that are going to allow us to rest in and stabilize that parasympathetic. So, for instance, having a constant practice of breath, like, so I have the same morning routine that I do every single morning, and I've been doing it for years. And it helps me anchor into my parasympathetic nervous system first thing in the morning. So I can constantly, I tap into that in the morning. And then throughout my day, I just resource a little more in order to stabilize that
Mm.
energy. So I'm not driving myself into states of sympathetic. And I'll have moments where my sympathetic system at work will be activated and it'll be like, you're dying. Like yesterday, our entire website and all of our servers went down, meaning like literally we have thousands of people who come to our stuff every single day and everything was down and it was a mess. And so for 5 minutes, my body was like in that sympathetic state. And I'm like, there's nothing I can do about this. Like, this is whatever. So then I did some breath work. I went for a bike ride and I just chilled out and it was all good. But I am constantly thinking about how can I optimize this parasympathetic. So after this interview, I'm going to jump on my bike and I'm going to go for a half an hour bike ride before my next interview so that I can just constantly recalibrate
Reset.
and reset. Yeah. Re-energize myself. And that is my energy is my priority, like really truly every single day. Like, what can I be doing for my energy that is going to truly help me in all the things that I get to do in this life, like running 3 companies and having 40 employees and all of that stuff. All like maintaining that container takes a lot of energy. It's not hard, it's just a lot of energy. And so
Yeah.
in what ways can I truly resource myself? And it's just like finding those things every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, can you take us through your morning routine and some other
Mm.
rituals that you have to maximize your energy?
hmm So first thing in the morning, so I wake up at the same time every single day. I have a glass of
What
water
time
with
do you
my
wake up?
5:30.
Nice.
And I have a big glass of water with lemon, and then Eric makes us coffee, so we do that. And then I do my morning pages, which if you're watching the audio or listening to the audio, you can't see this, but I just free write. I just free write anything that's in my mind, anything that comes through, just dump it all down for 3 pages. That's an exercise that Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way created. And it's an amazing book if you haven't read that.
Mhm.
And then I write down my gratitude, like what I'm grateful for in that moment. And then I do my short term goals and my long term goals. So I write down my goals every single day. So I'm just constantly abreast of them. The second thing I do is I do something called the brain train, which is it's basically like this system that I wear on my head. It's so crazy. And it vibrates to optimal brain frequency. So it helps match my brain waves. It helps with like focus and all that kind of stuff. So I do that for half an hour. Then I do my breath work and my meditation. And then I do my cold shower. So I have a freezing cold shower and movement. And then I get ready for the day. And so by that time, I'm feeling pretty good.
I
and
love
then
it.
and then throughout the day, breath work all day long. Like I do breath work all day long. My poor boyfriend, I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into when he started
Is
dating me
he super into breath work as well now?
because of me. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So we do breath work together every single morning.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, he does it on his own too. But yeah, he's super into it. But I'll just like bust out in breath work randomly and he'll just like, oh my God, what's going on? And movement, dance and movement is a huge part of my life. Weight training, throwing kettlebells around helps with my energy, and just really eating. Like, my body loves meat and veggies. That's kind of it. So I have a very, very simple diet. Like, I don't do a lot of like I don't do a lot of like I don't do any sugar unless I'm choosing to, treat myself. Just lots of like really healthy alive food, tons of
Mm.
water, limiting my coffee, these are my favorite, like sparkling water, LaCroix, like just like things that like make me feel alive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With running, I think 3 or 4 businesses, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, what are the things that you still struggle with on a day to day? Like, what are,
Mm, a lot. So growing pains, right? It's like right now, what am I struggling with the most right now? I would say I've been running Hungry for Happiness solely on heart and mission and just like energy and just excitement for so long. And it's getting to a place now where it's growing so big. And with this book launch happening in next week, oh my God. Cue the anxiety. No, it's all good. It's my team is growing, and so I'm really leadership has been my edge this year of like I'm really good at leadership when it comes to my mission and like leading movements and missions and leading my clients and leading my community, but leadership within my organization has definitely been my edge this year of like how can I create these really healthy dynamics between me and my team, how can I give them structure yet a lot of flexibility, how can I manage, how can I help support them in their emotionality and their professional development, how can like it's all stuff that's all CEO stuff that
Mm,
I like. I'm not a natural CEO. I'm a creator, I'm a speaker, I'm a podcaster, I'm a writer, I'm a facilitator, right? And so I'm learning how to be a CEO every single day, and it's definitely challenging, and I've definitely made mistakes that have costed people to like leave my organization, which sucks. But it's all part of the growth. It's like I can't expect to know what I'm doing right off the bat. This
sure.
company grew so quickly that I'm like, oh God, now I got to really like this learning curve has to be really accelerated because this company's growing like crazy. We're taking on new team members all the time. So that's something that's definitely an edge for me right now in business is just learning how to manage people, have the right people in the right seats, so that the mission gets the energy that it deserves.
Mm, yeah, a
Mm,
couple questions there. I mean, you have had such a rapid extension in the entrepreneurial journey, and
mm,
how do you manage sort of the doing and the being, and keep such great balance? I
mm,
mean, I know that you mentioned all these hacks and rituals, which are great, but just in terms of your mental and overall well-being, like not focusing overly on.
mm. Yeah, my personal life comes first, in everything. So Eric comes first, my family comes first, my friends come first. Um, I just prioritize the things that are important to me over business, and I have incredibly hard boundaries with it. So, some people can be like, wow, Sam, you're really cutthroat. But it's like, if I bend those boundaries a little bit, I'm going to just break them and then I'm going to feel resentful. And the reason why I can show up to my work with so much energy and enthusiasm and excitement is because I put business in a box, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah.
I don't let it bleed into my personal life. I will download Instagram once a day. I will do all my posting. I will get everything done and I'll take it off my phone most times. I will take Instagram off my phone on the weekends, most weekends. I will not take any meetings before 9. I will shut everything off at 5:30. I really put it in a box and know that not everything is super important and super urgent, even though my ego wants to tell me so.
Mm,
And where the work really like what fuels me and allows me to keep this mission going is serving myself and serving those around me and serving my inner circle and my family. And when those buckets are full, they energize me in order to do the business. So people will say, how are you able to, like, you've got 3 companies and all of these employees and you're only one person? I'm like, well, number one, it's hiring really good people who love what we're doing. And it's about really prioritizing my mental health and my self-care so that I can contribute in the way that these missions deserve.
that's really beautiful.
Mm,
I know that you are a personal growth junkie and spiritual growth
mm,
junkie, and you've been on this journey for a while. So, like, who are some of the teachers that have been really, really
mm,
inspirational in your journey?
mm. This is always a bit of a difficult question for me. Mm. There's a man who's 91 years old who lives in Bali who supported me with breathwork when I first discovered it. And he's been instrumental. in this journey. He's just been, yeah, part of bringing pause forth and just bringing it into the world is because he was basically reminding me how important this work is, and he's like, I can't do it, you have to do it. So I feel like there's a little bit of a beautiful legacy there.
Mm.
Um, one of my favorite mentors that I worked with is a man by the name of Philip McKernan. Do you know him? Irish
Yeah.
guy. He's hilarious. I'm laughing because he sent me the most hilarious voice note yesterday, but he's just great. Um, Matt Kahn
Hmm.
is incredible.
Yeah.
He is just, his transmissions that come through are beautiful. His YouTube channel is great. He's just epic, truly epic human. Um, there's a book that's a channeled text called I Am the Word by
Mm.
Paul Selig. Yeah, that has been, so I mean, Paul's just the channel, so it's not him as a human, but it's the guides that come through him, have been instrumental, beautiful teachers for me. Um, and I have an energy healer that I work with in San Diego who's actually a dear friend, Andrew De Gregorio. Very underground, no social media presence whatsoever, but he's been beautiful in my journey.
Oh, those are awesome. Thank you for
Mm,
sharing those. Yeah, I love how you said, you're constantly on the healing journey. And I think that's
mm.
such a beautiful mindset. And, something that we can all embody. Um, I wanted to ask you, like, how has your mindset shifted around wealth consciousness as you've been doing the inner work?
Mm, that's a great question. Mm. It's been so interesting to, well, let me take it back. So, when I first started everything, I was a waitress and I was making $30,000 a year and struggling, saying I lived in a crappy apartment, and I hired my first coach and he was $3,000 a month. Yeah, so I was making 30 grand a year and he was 3 grand a month, so I was literally losing money by hiring him. And it was this decision that I do not want to live in scarcity anymore. I do not want to live in fear around money anymore. I am an abundant being and I'm not vibrating to the frequency of abundance, even though I want it so bad. And so it was this choice point of like, I'm choosing to live an abundant life. I'm choosing to quit this job, pursue Hungry for Happiness at the time, full time, and just go for it. And so in 12 months, I went from making 30,000 to 300,000 in 12 months, which for me, that was like, I'm like, holy crap, that's like ridiculous. And that's business income, right? So that wasn't personal income, but that was how much money I created through my company in the first year. And it blew me away. I'm like, wow, this is absolutely unreal. Like, wow, I can't believe I was able to do this. And so that evidence showed me that I am capable of attracting and creating as much money as possible. And it is my duty to constantly add value so that abundance occurs. And I wouldn't be able to build pods to the degree that it is now or Hungry for Happiness if I didn't upgrade my money story, because I would still be living in scarcity. And
Mm.
so my thoughts on that is the more I attract, the more I can circulate and the more I can help. So there's no limit to the amount that I want to make now. And so I have very clear financial goals for how much I want my companies combined to make, and then how much personal income I want to make based on all of the value and all of the contributing that I'm doing. And I used to have, it's interesting. I was actually talking to one of my employees about this today, and I said, I said to her, I said, you make more money than me in the company. She does, because she's one of my top salespeople, and she just dominates.
Uh-huh.
I said, you realize like your salary is more than mine? She's like, that's ridiculous. You need to pay yourself more than anyone. And I'm like, you're right, I do, because I want to feel valued, just like you feel valued. And
Mm.
so it's constantly this like upgrading. So I'm giving myself a raise today, which feels awesome. But it's this constant like upgrading of you know, the value that I contribute and what I choose to receive. And so
Mm.
it's doing the inner work. So to answer your question in a long way, doing the inner work and increasing my capacity to receive not just money, but all things: support, love, connection. all of it has dramatically improved my bank account.
Mm. What advice would you have for somebody that's really struggling with that?
Really check in with two things. Number one, what is your story around money? Have you been borrowing beliefs that are not yours? And number two, what is your relationship to receiving? Those are the two big things.
Mm.
If you have a crappy money story and you block receptivity, you're screwed.
Yeah.
That's
It
that's
sounds
it.
so simple, right?
Well, it is simple. It's just not easy to do, right? It's a simple thing. And so in order for me to give myself this raise, I have to ask myself, what is my relationship to this number? What does
Mm.
that feel like receiving? And I can already like I'm tuning into that number and I'm already feeling my unworthiness parts. You're like, no, you need to put that back in the business. You need to reinvest. You shouldn't be taking that much money out of the company. Like I'm noticing that as I'm having this conversation with you. And so it's about sitting with those parts and saying, you deserve this. You are so worthy of this abundance. You contribute so much to the world. This is what you deserve. So
Mm.
anyway.
I love that. That is so powerful.
Mm,
Yeah. I want to ask you, what advice do you have for your younger self?
She was crazy. Oh man. What advice do I have for my younger self? It's like your insecurities are an illusion.
Mm. That's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even like my body image stuff and my unworthiness stuff, it's like so not true. Like I was so like spunky and full of life and all of this. And then I had like this part of me that like just never thought that I was good enough. So it's like imagine how I would have expressed myself if that wasn't the case, you know?
Mm. How did you let go of some of that perfectionism?
Changing my relationship to mistakes. One of my mantras is I will make better mistakes tomorrow. So it gives me the freedom to just like let it go.
Mm.
Like I screw up all the time. And I'm like, oh, look what I did. That was such a dumbass move. Okay, let's try again tomorrow. You know? And I think like, yeah, just giving myself a lot of grace to be human and messing up and making fun of myself.
Mm.
Comedy goes a long way. Like comedy is such a healer.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. Samantha, this has been such an amazing conversation. Where
Mm,
can people go to connect with you, to find out about all your programs, to get your book?
mm. So the book is www.hungryforhappiness.com/book, and Hungry for Happiness, Stop Emotional Eating and Start Loving Yourself. And when you buy the book, you also have access to my 21-day meditation series. So that's $47. So you get that for free when you pre-order the book. And I'm very active on Instagram at Samantha Skelly. You can follow along there. Hungryforhappiness.com for all of the food and body programs and certifications, and then pausebreathwork.com for all the breathwork certifications.
Awesome. Yeah. If you guys aren't following Samantha on Instagram, you definitely need to be doing so. She shares such amazing content. Definitely check her out. And we'll link to all of those resources in the show notes. What are you most excited about on the horizon? What's next?
My book launching next week. So we're in pre-order now and it's launching next week. I've never done a traditional published book. So I had it on my vision board for the last 12 years to be a Hay House author. So that's coming true next week, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most excited about business wise. Personal, we're in Utah right now. It's just gorgeous. And I've just been soaking in every moment of nature and just being immersed in this beautiful world. So that for me is just so exciting.
Love it. Love it. Well, congratulations. I cannot wait to
Thank
read
you.
your book. And
Thanks,
yeah,
love.
enjoy
Awesome.
Utah.
Thank you.